Welcome to the Real News Network, coming to you from the McClatchy newspaper offices in Washington, D.C. And now joining us from the McClatchy Baghdad Bureau is the Baghdad Bureau Chief, Leila Fadel. Thanks for joining us, Leila.
Thanks for having me.
So, Leila, talk about the coming provincial elections. They're coming up just in a few days, and depending what happens, we could see a change in the whole balance of forces in Iraq. So give us an overview of what might happen here.
Well, basically, January 31st, the provinces will choose new provincial leaders, governors, and provincial councils, and that could shift the power balance in Iraq. And looking at the provincial elections and where it will be really important to watch, you look at Nineveh province, for example, where the Kurdish and Arab tensions are really rising to the surface, and the ballot box will really change the power brokers over there. Because right now it's an Arab Sunni province dominated by the Kurdish Provincial Council, and many Arabs really feel that they've overreached there, and they're afraid of Kurdish expansion, and all those issues are coming up in Nineveh province. You look at Diyala province, which is long a huge, horrible place of sectarian violence. Again, it's Shia dominated in a mostly Sunni province, and that could also lead.
It's in something like more than 80% Sunni.
Diyala, well, I'm not sure if it's more than 80% Sunni, but it's mostly Sunni, and because of the last provincial elections where Sunnis didn't vote, they're very much marginalized in regional powers. And so for the first time, really, they get to choose representation, and that could shift the power balance in places like Diyala and Nineveh province. And then you look at Anbar province, where the Iraqi Islamic Party, which is the largest Sunni party in Iraq, has power. They may lose that because now the awakening and the tribal leaders have come into the fold, and so Sunni representation in the provinces could really change. And some of the bigger parties, like the Islamic Supreme Council of Iraq, their power base comes from their power in the provinces. They control 6 of the 9 Shia provinces in the south, and so they really want to keep hold on that power base. And so they're fighting to stay in power, while people like Maliki he's using his face to sell a state of law platform across the country, and people are very threatened by that.
In one of our earlier interviews, we talked about this. Often gets talked about a Sunni province, a Shia province, but what we're really talking about is an elite within the Sunni fighting an elite within the Shia, and they use these kind of tribal affiliations as part of this fight amongst various sections of the elite for political control and, of course, oil revenue.
Well, there's a political battle going on again between the parties, and everybody is vying for the constituency. Many people here are very disenchanted with the last administration, or the current administration here in Iraq, as well as the provincial councils that have been running their provinces, where they feel that they haven't gotten services, that they live in a rich country where they aren't getting these types of things delivered to them. The other thing is that in the last elections, the Shias were extremely united under one banner, the United Iraqi Alliance, and now they've broken apart into parties. You know, the Sadrists have been largely marginalized. Dawa is running on its own. The Supreme Council is running on its own. And on top of that, Shia leaders within the coalition are also running with their own parties. There are 14,500 candidates running for 440 seats across the country. So you can imagine the walls here are wallpapered with campaign posters, and there's a joke that the concrete blast walls that blanket the city right now finally have a use. There's more room to put campaign posters up.
The forces like the Sadr forces that want to end the occupation sooner than later and oppose the status of forces agreement, how much strength do they have in the provincial elections? Are they possibly could win any of the provinces?
Well, I think, the provincial elections will tell us that. That is something that's been really unclear, is how much popularity has the Sadr movement lost. Of course, they're not running. Muqtada Sadr, who leads the Sadr movement, said that they would not run as a list, the Sadr list, but they're going to support candidates and parties, and they've endorsed 2 main parties as as who they support. Of course, on the list are people that are allied to the Sadr movement. And that's still unclear, and the provincial elections will really tell us that. The provincial elections will tell us, where do Shias want to go from here? Where do Iraqis want to go from here? There's a lot of talk about having seculars instead of the Islamists that have ruled so far, and a lot of talk about having independence. But it's unclear whether that really will happen, or will the Supreme Council, the incumbents really in the South, take what they already have. Yeah, the Sadrs do control a couple provinces right now, and it will be interesting to see if they can maintain control in those areas, and that's something that these elections will answer for us.
How much has the drop in the price of oil affected the lives of Iraqi people and the politics?
Well, the lives of Iraqi people are pretty much the same. Salaries are terrible and services are terrible. Of course, the projected budget now has dropped a lot. Oil now is $33 a barrel. They've estimated for $50 next year. So the budget, of course, has dropped a lot, and there will be a deficit. But I don't think that they do also have a surplus from last year, so I don't know yet how that's going to affect them economically. But on the street, nobody ever really felt that they saw the oil money. This is a country that's been neglected, that's really falling apart. They still don't have great electricity or water services of any kind. Salaries are an average of a couple $100s a month in a country where real estate is getting more expensive.
Is there any sense that the coming to power now of President Obama is going to change U.S. policy in any way?
Well, I think the only thing, and the thing that everybody talks about, is what will Obama do about the withdrawal? Will it be a quicker withdrawal? Will this be Bush's war? It was Bush's war and now it's over and we leave? Or will they stick to the 2011 deadline in the agreement? I think that's the thing that everybody's looking to Obama for. Is he going to pull out quicker? Does this mean the occupation ends quicker? I mean, that's what Iraqis say on the street.
But is there actually any indication that that's the case?
At this point, it's unclear. I mean, the only thing we've heard from the president is that he wants a responsible withdrawal from Iraq. But during his campaign, he talked about 16 months, and 16 months is more than a year before the December 31st, 2011 deadline. The other thing is there is a little concern among politicians that the unconditional support that they had from the Bush administration is gone, and that the mistakes they make will affect the relationship a lot more than it did in the past. Of course, the U.S.-Iraqi relationship did change on January 1st. There is no longer a UN mandate, and this country has, at least on the surface, a semblance of sovereignty it didn't have before. It's unclear if that's real or not. I mean, we're still watching that.
A lot of the American media is kind of losing interest in the Iraq story. I mean, McClatchy and your bureau are one of the few that are really still at it a full course. Is that because things are so calm, or that's for other reasons? What really is the situation in terms of the level of violence now for the people and for the coalition?
Well, people still die here every day. It was extremely horrible in 2006 and 2007 and 2005. I can't even describe how terrifying this country was. People were literally killing each other in the street. You would drive and walk by dead bodies that you wouldn't pick up because you were too scared, as an Iraqi, you were too scared to even do anything to help anyone because it might say, I'm with you or I'm against you, whoever's doing that killing. Of course, that has subsided and things are a lot better. But today, a whole family was slaughtered in the northern province of Diyala by unknown gunmen. You know, that's not a normal thing. There are car bombs, there are roadside bombs. They kill 1 and not 30, they kill 10 and not 50, and it makes it better. But it's not gone. Maybe it's good enough, I don't know.
You're going to be traveling to Diyala province soon, so when you get back, let's talk again.
Okay, that'd be great.
Thanks for joining us, Leila.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on the Real News Network from the McClatchy offices in Washington.
Donate today and receive a new documentary film available to members of the Real News Network. The History of the National Security State with legendary author Gore Vidal. Bonus features of the DVD include an in-depth response to Vidal from ex-CIA analyst Ray McGovern, who served under 7 U.S. presidents, an exclusive interview with Colin Powell's former Chief of Staff Larry Wilkerson, and an insightful interview with oil policy analyst Antonia Juhas.
The news magazine of the screen. Living glimpses of history in the making.
Hollywood and Washington is a symbiotic relationship. They both deal with illusions. reality doesn't often play much of a part. I think I saw through the myth of the Cold War almost from the beginning. I was a Washington political kid from a political family. Roosevelt first had radio because he had this great speaking voice and everyone liked to hear. Truman proceeded to break every arrangement that Roosevelt had set up for a peaceful coexistence. And Truman thought that it would be a good idea. Why not just stay armed all the time? And then he devised the national security state. You've got to go up and swear allegiance to the United States or else you're a commie. I mean, we had imported fascism. We get Dwight Eisenhower, who said that we have this great military industrial complex. It is a dangerous thing. And he said this is going to change everything. And the way our country's governed is going to change us politically. Along comes Jack Kennedy, who wanted to make his mark, believed in the Cold War. But he said, in this kind of politics, it is the appearance of things that matters. I think everybody should take a sober look at the world about us. The national security state still exists, only it isn't communism anymore, it's terrorism. This is the most serious thing that has happened in the history of the United States. Knowledge is power. We need an honest news system.
We need the real news.
This is the sort of thing we can build right now without anyone else's permission from the government or from the business community. It's the power's in our hands.
If we're not going to sleepwalk into more wars, we think we need to start with a television news network that won't bow to pressure and has the courage to seek facts. And that means independent economics. And that's why we need you.
Make a tax-deductible donation now of at least $10 a month or a one-time give of at least $75. As a thank you for your support, we will send you the new documentary film, The History of the National Security State.